With that, I yield back.
Thank you. So I would note Senator Kim asked multiple questions about whether it is appropriate for politicians to try to pressure the FCC to silence their critics. My answer to that is unequivocally no, but that happens to be my answer whether those politicians are Republicans or Democrats. And I'd like to now enter into the record a letter dated April 11th, 2018. And it was directed to the then chairman of the FCC, Ajit Pai. And it says, "We write to express our grave concerns regarding Sinclair Broadcasting Group's conduct. This conduct affects its fitness to hold its existing broadcast licenses and its fitness to acquire even more broadcast licenses through the proposed merger with Tribune Media Company." And what the signatories of this letter was concerned about is that Sinclair had their local anchors warn the populace of the dangers of, quote, one-sided news stories plaguing our country. In other words, Sinclair spoke out against bias in journalism. Apparently, our Democrat colleagues did not like that, and in writing, they urged the FCC to strip the licenses and block the merger. And this letter is signed by Maria Cantwell, by Patty Murray, by Ron Wyden, by Richard Blumenthal, by Bernie Sanders, by Tammy Baldwin, by Tom Udall, by Elizabeth Warren, by Ed Markey, by Tina Smith, by Jeff Merkley, and by Cory Booker. And so I am going to enter this letter into the record without objection. It is so entered. And I would point out the principles ought to apply to both sides evenly.
I appreciate your comments. Can I say a quick rebuttal
Sure.
here? I just want to say this is another attempt to muddy the waters. Chairman Carr's threats to companies he directly regulates are not the same thing as a letter from Congress requesting an agency examine a matter of public concern. Members on both sides of the aisle frequently write similar letters. That's the proper oversight role of Congress. As one example now, Secretary of State Rubio and other Republican senators wrote to the FCC in 2022, urging the agency to thoroughly scrutinize a proposed sale of Spanish language radio stations concerned it would, quote, silence political viewpoints. So I hope my colleagues, we stop trying to distract from the clear and present attacks right now upon our First Amendment. Chairman Carr's targeted threats against the licensees he directly regulates, and we can hear from Chairman Carr without further delay.
So Senator Kim is factually incorrect. This letter is calling for the FCC to block the licenses, to block the merger, because the Democrats who signed this disagreed with the content on that station. And the difference, I was on that committee then. When this happened, I spoke out against it at the time. And you know what? Not a single Democrat on this committee had a word to say about it. I was also on this committee at the time that Democrats tried to go after Fox and deny a routine license renewal, again, because Democrats didn't like what Fox News says. You know what? I don't like what MSNBC says, but I'm not urging the commission to take away MSNBC's license. And so suddenly, when the current administration and FCC makes comments about Jimmy Kimmel, comments that, as you know, I disagreed with and spoke out against, suddenly Democrats have discovered the First Amendment, and my request would be maybe remember it when Democrats are in power, that the First Amendment is not simply a one-way license for one team to abuse the power and the other not. Instead,
media
we should
regulation,
respect the free
and
speech
alleged
of all
political
Americans,
pressure on the Federal
regardless of
Communications
party.
Commission.
I agree
Responding
with that
to earlier
statement you
questions
made.
from
A lot of
Senator
what you
Andy
just
Kim
said,
of New
I was
Jersey,
not on the
the
committee
Speaker
at that
stated
time, and I
unequivocally
hope
that it
going
is never
forward,
appropriate
as
for
I am on this
politicians,
committee with you, that we
regardless
can
of
work
party, to
together to
pressure the
show that we
FCC to
do
silence
this
critics.
regardless
To make
of who
that
is
case,
violating,
the Senator
that we
entered
try to
into
show
the
that
official record a
integrity to the
letter dated
process.
April
That
11,
would be a
2018,
wonderful
addressed to then
development. I hope
FCC
so as
Chairman
well.
Ajit Pai. The letter expressed what its authors called grave concerns about Sinclair Broadcasting Group, questioning the company's fitness to retain its broadcast licenses and proceed with its proposed merger with Tribune Media. According to the senator, the controversy stemmed from Sinclair directing local news anchors to warn viewers about the dangers of one-sided news stories affecting the country. a message intended to highlight concerns about media bias. The senator argued that several Democratic lawmakers objected to that message and responded by urging the FCC to revoke Sinclair's licenses and block the merger. The letter was signed by Senators Maria Cantwell, Patty Murray, Ron Wyden, Richard Blumenthal, Bernie Sanders, Tammy Baldwin, Tom Udall, Elizabeth Warren, Ed Markey, Tina Smith, Jeff Merkley, and Cory Booker. With no objection, the letter was formally entered into the hearing record. The senator emphasized that First Amendment protections must be applied evenly, regardless of which political party is in power. At that point, Senator Andy Kim requested a rebuttal. Kim argued that the comparison was misleading, saying, FCC Chairman Brendan Carr's alleged threats toward companies he directly regulates are fundamentally different from congressional letters requesting oversight of matters of public concern. Kim noted that lawmakers from both parties routinely send such letters. As an example, he cited a 2022 letter from then-Senator Marco Rubio and other Republican senators urging the FCC to closely scrutinize a proposed sale of Spanish-language radio stations over concerns it could silence political viewpoints. Kim warned against what he called attempts to muddy the waters and said the committee should focus on what he described as clear and present threats to the First Amendment. He urged members to hear directly from Chairman Carr without further delay. The original speaker fired back, calling Kim's characterization factually incorrect. He argued that the 2018 letter explicitly called for blocking broadcast licenses and a merger because Democratic lawmakers disagreed with the content being aired. He said he was serving on the committee at the time and publicly opposed those efforts, noting that no Democrats objected then. He also recalled separate attempts to challenge Fox News' routine license renewal, again based on disagreement with its content. I don't like what MSNBC says, the senator added, but I would never urge the FCC to take away MSNBC's license. He concluded by accusing Democrats of selectively invoking the First Amendment only when it benefits them politically, arguing that free speech protections must apply to all Americans equally, regardless of party. In response, Senator Kim said he agreed with much of what had been said, acknowledged he was not on the committee at the time, and expressed hope that moving forward, both sides could work together to uphold integrity and fairness in the committee's oversight role. The exchange ended on a rare note of agreement, with both senators expressing hope for consistent and principled enforcement of First Amendment protections.